If your mind is always racing, and if you find it hard to feel present with your kids, with yourself, with your partner, or just in the season of life, first of all, you're not alone. In this video, we're going to talk about why this happens, how to gently re-anchor yourself, and what presence can really look like in motherhood, even when life around us feels so chaotic. Hey friends, and welcome back to the Motherhood Resets mini-series. We are looking at some of the challenges that we experience in motherhood, and we're applying a mindset shift to it to look at it through a positive lens. Today is day 9, and we are talking about how to be more present. So here is the very simple mindset shift that I want to offer you today. Being present is not about being perfectly calm or having a quiet mind, okay? It's about noticing. That's it. It's about noticing. And before you're like, what? Let me explain, okay? Because I used to think that in order to be present, I needed to be serene and zen and like totally focused. But let's be real, most of us are managing like a dozen things on our plate. You know, we have very little sleep. We're just carrying a lot, right? It's like we're juggling and multitasking like crazy. So presence in this case, it doesn't mean leaving it all behind. It just means coming back to the moment again and again and making it habitual, making it very simple and natural for you to do every time you need to do it. And even if your kid is melting down, even if you're running late, even if you hadn't had a chance to drink your coffee yet, that's especially the time that it really helps to ground yourself and to rewire your mind to be able to be more present in that moment, even if it's just like for 30 seconds, right? But how do we do that? How do we find the way back to the moment when our thoughts are like sprinting ahead of us 100 miles an hour? So tip number 1 is to use your senses to ground yourself. Look, your racing thoughts usually live in the future, but your senses, your body lives right here in the now. So one of the simple ways to ground yourself is to anchor into your senses. So sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. So what I'm gonna tell you now is I call this the 3-2-1. It kind of helps to remember when your thoughts are, sprinting 100 miles an hour and you need to really ground yourself. Just pause for a few seconds and just ask yourself, 3-2-1. What are the 3 things that I can see? What are the 2 things that I can touch? And what is the 1 thing that I can hear? You can do this while cooking dinner. You can do this while pushing a stroller. You can do this during a toddler meltdown. You can do this during bedtime routines. So maybe try to do this when you are feeling particularly overwhelmed, but you don't even have to be overwhelmed to practice this. For example, I do this when I nurse my baby. So instead of scrolling on my phone, which I know is really tempting to do, and I think we make it it's almost like an addiction sometimes. Like if you're like nursing your baby, like what else are you gonna do? You're just gonna scroll on your phone. But I use that time, not every single time, but sometimes I use it to anchor myself. So I use this 3-2-1 method quite frequently. So 3 things that I can see, 2 things that I can hear, and 1 thing that I can touch. So maybe when I'm nursing my baby, maybe I notice her eyelashes. These are the things that I can see, right? Maybe I notice her little hands. The things that I can hear, maybe I hear the white noise machine in the background, right? So it's stuff like that that really anchors you, and it's a reset, right? And in most cases, it honestly takes like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and it really helps to ground you and to bring you into the now, into the present moment. Tip number 2 is to name exactly what's happening. So let's say you feel a certain way, say that. If you feel overwhelmed, say, I feel overwhelmed. If you feel scattered, say, I feel scattered. It may sound small, but naming your state of mind not only acknowledges your feelings, but also gives you a chance to kind of stop spiraling if you're finding that you are ruminating and thinking about stuff and just you can't like bring yourself into the present moment. Just acknowledging your feelings and your emotions can help you do exactly that, to bring you into that present moment. It also tells the people around you, assuming that you're saying these things out loud, that maybe you need a little bit of space, or on the reverse, maybe you need a little bit of support. If you're saying, you know what, I'm overstimulated, I am touched out, I don't want any contact right now, please like give me 5 minutes to calm down. And if you say this out loud, people will know, okay, like she needs to have a little bit of space. But if you say something like, I'm so overwhelmed, like I can't do this. Let's say you're putting your kids to bed, and bedtimes for me are very, very chaotic. It's probably the most chaotic time of the day for me. And sometimes I'm vocal about it. Like I tell my husband, like I am just like really frustrated. I have 3 kids to put to sleep, and they of course just want the mom. They don't want my husband to help. Anyway, so this is like an example of everything just falls on our shoulders. It's never 50-50. I have an amazing partner. He's so supportive, but it's never 50-50. A lot of the stuff just falls on me. And I guess it's normal, right? It's just a matter of how we deal with it. So sometimes it's really difficult, but then sometimes it does help to bring us into the present moment instead of just spiraling out of control, right? So if you say these things out loud, in this case, if I say like, you know what, I'm so overwhelmed, like this bedtime thing is just I'm in over my head, then my husband knows that he has to step in and actually help me. So just an example, right? But my point is when you make these things verbal, like when you vocalize your emotions and your feelings, you don't have to go overboard about it, but like if you say what's on your mind, that one thing alone can lessen the pressure, right? And it can lift you out of that brain fog and bring you into the present moment. So tip number 3 is to build tiny pauses into your day. Okay, so here's a little trick that I like to use. Pick one small thing you do every day, okay? It could be like pouring your coffee. Maybe it's buckling your kids' car seats. For us, it's a very, another chaotic thing that we have during our day is buckling our kids in the car seats, because sometimes it could be like screaming and kicking and stuff throwing around, right? But it could be like one of those moments that you just choose to pause and just to breathe, right? Because for me, sometimes I get very frustrated during that time, because if you're buckling your kids in the car seats, chances are you're probably going somewhere, maybe you're running late, and sometimes it could be stressful because if they're not being cooperative, right? Anyway, but that is a perfect example of a moment that it just really helpful to just take that moment to breathe, okay? And just mentally tell yourself, it's okay. Like this is going to be fine, like 10 seconds and it's going to be okay. So just use like little deep breaths, right? And look, these little pauses, they won't solve everything, okay? But over time they add up and they teach you to ground yourself when things are getting very overwhelming and frustrating. And they teach you to come back to the moment a little bit more naturally. It's like, I think of it as like building a muscle, you know, little by little. Sometimes it's really hard to do, especially in the beginning, if you're not, you know, if your mind is not trained to be rewired that quickly, it's really hard to do. But over time, it's like building that muscle, right? Little by little. And then over time, it becomes a little bit easier to bring yourself out of that frustration state into the present moment. Look, if you are having a hard time staying present, okay, it doesn't mean that you're messing up. It doesn't mean that you're not a good mom, okay? More likely it's because your brain and your body are just worn out from all the juggling. Like we have so many things going on, and the feeling of your mind racing and being all over the place, and you have to be in like 10 different places at once, and you need like 10 extra hands to do everything that you have to do, right? And sometimes it does help for our mind and for our body to just take a little bit of a break and bring you back into the present moment, even if it's just like for 15 seconds, right? Sometimes that makes such a big difference. And if it doesn't come naturally to you, you know, practice it. It will eventually become something that you can look at as a quick solution. So today, I just want to invite you to try one thing, you know, one moment to pause, one deep breath, one little break. You know, maybe it's looking at your baby's eyelashes as you're trying to rock into sleep. Maybe it's feeling your coffee cup in your hands, right? Maybe it's just standing in your kitchen in the middle of all the mess and just closing your eyes and just like using the 3-2-1 technique. And what are you going to hear? Well, maybe there's silence, but maybe there's like the fridge humming, right? Hear that. And that's really enough, because that's what being present really is. It's the moment right there. Anyway, thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you found this video helpful. I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.